Saints quarterback Derek Carr wants to play week one. Will it be in New Orleans, and can the team sell it? The backdrop, Ross Jackson, the locked on. Whoa, James, didn't you hear Derek Carr retired? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you might have figured it out. This video is from a while ago, about a week ago. I had it scheduled to go out the weekend that Derek Carr announced his retirement. So obviously shifted in the conversation. But I thought, it's kind of interesting to watch the video knowing how this plays out and knowing that Derek Carr does retire. And it frames everything in an interesting way. So I thought, you know what? For the people, I'm not going to delete it. For the people, I'm going to release it. So enjoy it. Special content. It's kind of like we're seeing the future while talking about the past. Really crazy stuff. So kick your feet up, unless you're not wearing socks. Enjoy yourself. Take it away, you handsome devil. Sports Network, I think it is, right? Locked On Sports Podcast, Saints Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, as much as we believe that Derek Carr is not in the picture to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints as of right now, as of recording, the fact of the matter is he is. The fact of the matter is that he right now is QB1. And until he is either off the team or having surgery or on the IR or whatever, we do have to address that it potentially could be Derek Carr on the field for the New Orleans Saints in week one, which is, it's insane to even think about. Like, every time I think about it, every time I'm like, yeah, what if he's actually running out of the tunnel? Like, what if he's actually playing? What happens to the team? What's that look like? What does the fan base do? So I'm assuming we're also going to talk about the same kind of line of thinking, and we'll react along the way.
The New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr situation, still not clear, still no clarity, still no resolution at this time, but that is expected to happen soon. And after the newest report, which this time comes from Ian Rappaport over at NFL Media, NFL Network, it sounds like the idea here for Derek Carr is to avoid surgery, which is not shocking.
Not surprising. We assume that of course he wants to play. Like, he does not want to sit out. He does not want to have surgery, sit out, all that. I think the sit out surgery thing is code for I'm not going to play for the Saints. If another team comes calling, he'll happily play week one. And there's not a doubt in my mind that thing will get rehab. Now, here's the interesting part. What is stronger? Carr's unwillingness to play for the Saints or his desire to play in the NFL? Because if you're advising Derek right now, it's like, man, look, if you take a year off, even if it's just to have surgery and get healthy, there is no guarantee when you come back there will be a market that sees you as a franchise quarterback or starting quarterback. So even if he doesn't want to play for the Saints and he does not want to compete with Tyler Shuck and he doesn't want to do all that stuff, I would assume he would rather do that than potentially phase himself out of being a starter, because he does have a guaranteed starting, well, not guaranteed because I guess Tyler Shuck could beat him out, but pretty much he has a guaranteed starting job. He is under contract with the team right now. Like, it's not like he's a free agent. It's not like Aaron Rodgers, where Rodgers isn't guaranteed to be on a team. Carr is on a team. So if Carr looks around and gets the advice and someone says, look, man, the best thing for your career is if you play for the Saints, have a good year, and then go somewhere else. Which isn't crazy to think that, if the offensive line's healthy and Kellen Moore installs a good offense and everything, wide receivers stay healthy and all that, it's not crazy to think Carr could have a good year and drive that market value up. So that's my biggest fear, is that someone in the Carr camp over on the Homegrown Network is going to figure out that the best possible, or seemingly the best situation for Derek, long-term and short-term, would be just to play for the Saints, which is, like, I think everyone would agree, seems like the least likely outcome right now, which is crazy.
Okay, that was always going to be the expectation, was that there was going to be some push to try to avoid surgery in this situation. Lots of reasons to avoid surgery. One, it stinks. You don't want to go through surgery. Two, he's already had surgery on the throwing shoulder before. And then, three, like, typically you just try to avoid surgery. And so I get the idea here. I understand where things are going with all of this. This sets up for the opportunity to be able to say, hey, he's trying to rehab, he's trying to rehab, he's trying to rehab, and then maybe the rehab doesn't work, and then he doesn't hit the field. But there is it sounds like, concerted effort for Derek Carr and from Derek Carr to rehab the shoulder and be ready to go for week one, which is a far cry from the, hey, he faces, a season-threatening shoulder injury and it could require surgery and very unlikely that he'll be ready for the beginning of the season. Now, all of a sudden, he could be ready for the beginning of the season. The details on this just seem to change with every new report.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite the range. It's quite the range. It's quite the range. I'll give you, I got a little peek behind the curtain here while I have my headphones up. My air conditioning's out. The air conditioning's out. If you've been watching the channel all week, you know that there was a leak during a thunderstorm situation earlier. I had to put a bucket down. The water was pouring through the ceiling. I did miss a beat, but I guess the water knocked out the AC, so it's been hit or miss. So right now it is about 80-something degrees in the studio, and we're trying to get some. So that's why I had that headphone up. I was waiting to see. I thought for a second I heard AC repair people possibly showing up at the studio. So that's what was going on there. But yeah, I mean, it's a big range. But the point of the story is, ladies and gentlemen, 85 degrees, 90 degrees, 100 degrees, I don't care. We're pumping out content left and right. I'll sweat through it. Doesn't matter to me. The range is insane. How it's like, well, could have surgery, season ending. Not just like, well, surgery, be ready, middle of the year. Could have surgery, season ending. Well, or could be ready week one. It's like, damn. That's quite the difference.
And so the big question for me and the big thing for me with all of this is try to get back on the field week one. Fine. Great. Right. The injury is one thing. But the other side of it is still, where does he play? Are he and the New Orleans Saints going to just really come out of all of this and say, okay, you're the starting quarterback. You're out there week one. It's what Mickey Loomis said during the post-draft press.
Well, if you are the Saints, I can talk about a sticky situation too, because if you are the Saints, there is not a doubt in anybody's mind that Derek Carr gives you the best chance to win. He is obviously the best quarterback on the team. That's why they gave him a 4-year, $100+ million contract. If he is healthy and willing, of course the Saints are going to put him out there. Why wouldn't they, right? The only reason that he's not going to be on the field, as far as the Saints are concerned, is if he won't or if he's hurt. But yeah, if he rehabs it and he's healthy and ready to go week one, yeah, then all right, I guess he's the starting quarterback. And the Saints are kind of in a weird situation because the money's paid for. They doled it out, so they're not in a situation where they can just say, nah, you know what, we're benching him. Nah, you know what, we're going to release him. They'll release him if he's like, well, I'm not going to play for you. But if he shows up and he's knocking on the door and he's ready to roll, Saints are in a very, very, very complex situation where at that point, like I've said before, you have to consult with, or they probably already have, but you have to consult with your captains. You have to consult with the team. What does the team want to do? Or if the team is, it's the same with a coach, where at a certain point, a team turns on a coach and it's worse that the coach is in the room and it's not good, right? So that possibly could be a situation. Jacob Hester talked about it. We covered that this week, that he thinks it's already past the time that the locker room would be like, yeah, forget this. We're moving forward. So, I mean, there's so many different moving pieces on this. It's not just Derek and the fans. It's Derek, the fans, the front office, the players, the teammates, Kellen Moore, brand new coach. It's all of that. Then you throw in the Tyler Shuck situation. It's insane how complex the entire situation is.
Sir, when he said Derek Carr is the starter, Derek Carr said during his sermon over in Las Vegas that, quote, nothing's wrong when it comes to him and the New Orleans Saints. But that is just so not what everything else says, right? Yeah. Contract disputes, demanding trades, sought after departures, requests for raises that weren't upheld, a restructure that apparently didn't want to happen, all these other things. At what point is all of this sort of, yeah, we're working towards a solution, just about saving face? Or how much of it is completely genuine? And then how do you sell that to a fan base that does not embrace Derek Carr and a fan base that Derek Carr has not embraced.
Well, you also have, I mean, you do have to factor that in. Like, you do have to factor in that this is a new era for the Saints. You brought in Kellen Moore. You brought in Brandon Staley. Everyone's new. Everything is new. The draft class, Tyler Shuck, the whole thing. You do have to factor in, like, oh man, I mean, this might just be too far gone between the fan base and Carr and the rest of the team, what they're doing, and the coaching staffs, and like the whole thing might just be too much for Mickey or whoever just to say, all right, well, we're rolling Derek out there. Here, let's do some interviews with Derek. I honestly can't even imagine him doing a press conference with like the New Orleans media and just acting like nothing's wrong. It's hard to fathom.
How do you sell that in the midst of having drafted the highest positioned rookie that you've drafted at the quarterback position since 1971 in the actual NFL draft, since 1981 if you include the supplemental draft, and then bearing in mind on top of all that when the season begins, that rookie that you spent that 40th overall selection on, which could have been the big-bodied wide receiver, it could have been so much, that quarterback is going to be 26 years old when the season starts. So you're really going to say, no, sit until you're 27 and then go out there and play? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Exactly. And Ross is right. And we've said this, and everyone agrees. None of it, nothing that anyone has done, that any moves, nothing lines up. Even the interviews. Like Drew Brees' interview with WWL. It's about Tyler Shuck. Right? Like all the radio shows, all the content creators, everybody's like, nope, it's Shuck or Rattler, it's Shuck's time. How will these guys work with Shuck? What will the offense look like with Shuck? Whatever. Everybody has kind of agreed, like, okay, we know what's happening. But as of now, nothing's happened. And as of now, we can all... It's kind of like with the Steelers, how they're all just like acting like Aaron Rodgers is on the team. He's not right now on the team. So if week 1 started tomorrow, Mason Rudolph's the starting quarterback for the Steelers. If week 1 starts tomorrow, depending on how rehab goes, Derek Carr is starting quarterback for the Saints. And what do the Saints do with the quarterback room? Jake Haener, all of a sudden, he's out of a job. He's the 4th-string quarterback at that point. Tyler Shuck is a 26-year-old rookie who's kind of developing. Does Derek Carr want that? Does he want that kind of competition in the quarterback room? Then, yeah, there are questions of, would you have taken Tyler Shuck if you knew Derek Carr was coming back? Or would you have taken someone that's a little bit more of a project like Jalen Milroe? Because you have the time. And Tyler Shuck is a guy who we have heard nonstop. Like, he was taken because he's mature. He was taken because he's pro-ready. He was taken because he's ready now. Okay, well, what if he sits for a year? Cool. Then he's 27 years old, getting his first meaningful snaps starting next year.
Something's not adding up somewhere. And so a part of me wonders how much of the kind of lip service of everything's fine, he's the starter, nothing's wrong, nothing to see here, yada, yada, is really just about everyone trying to make sure that the eventual divorce, the eventual split, which I still believe is on the horizon, whether it's before this year or whether it's after this year, that the eventual split at least looks cleaner for both sides, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
The idea here is...
I agree, and I think, but again, it's like we're really throwing some hypotheticals out there that might not be... I agree, it does kind of make sense that, okay, well, the Saints, it's good for the Saints to make it look mutual, because then they can, further, when they're doing business in the future, like it's no harm, no foul, or if they're still trying to trade him, that makes sense. Derek Carr, obviously, it makes sense for him to look like he's trying to play, look like he's trying to do rehab, because then if another team's interested, if he's sitting here saying, like, I have to have surgery, well, obviously no one's going to come trade for him. No one's going to be interested if he's saying, I am having surgery, I am missing this season. Then it kills the value, for him going to a different place, obviously. So, yeah, I guess it does make sense that the two parties would want to save as much face as possible, but where that does not compute is at the very end. Like, at the very end of this, it's hard to save face. Because at the very end, like, something has to happen. Something has to happen, whether the Saints are releasing him, or they're finding a trade partner, or he's having surgery, or he's trying to play. We can put the duct tape on this and put the Band-Aids on or whatever, but at some point, the facts are going to have to be out. And at some point, someone's going to have to make a decision. And we are going to have to move on one way or the other. And none of those, like, none of the move on, none of the possible resolutions on this decision tree can happen without, like, legit facts or whatever coming out.
You try to make sure you're presenting yourself as an organization in the best light, and you give the player the opportunity to present themselves in the best light. Like, it would be no surprise at all to me, for instance, and this is just me speculating, but looking at another possibility. It would be no surprise to me that you go, he's rehabbing, he's trying to be out there, he's going to try to get out there week 1. And then it gets close to week 1, gets close to training camp, all this stuff. He's not out there. Well, the rehab isn't necessarily working just yet. He's not going to be ready for week 1. So we're going to push a little bit longer. And then week 6 passes. And then, you get a little bit deeper into the season. And it's like, you know what? The rehab's not working. He's going to go ahead and get the surgery. And then so he tried his hardest.
But that doesn't really work. That doesn't work at all. Because is he on the team? Like, at that point, what's he doing? Is he at camp? Is he at practice? Is he on the sidelines? If he's trying to play and all that stuff, okay, then you say, all right, well, it's not working. He's going to have surgery now. You're telling me he's going to have surgery in week 8, week 9, and then potentially miss even more time with another team? Like, it wouldn't make sense at all for Derek Carr to wait 9 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever to have the surgery. It would make sense for him to have the surgery now. But he kind of can't, because then that would eliminate the suitors. That would eliminate trade partners. What I think is happening is that they are desperate for someone to come bail them out, both parties, and make a move for Derek, whoever that is. Now, Derek has a no trade clause, so, but that's what I think they're both waiting on. My question is, if there is not a trade partner, my question is, if there is not a team that is willing to bail them out, then what I think would happen is I think Derek would elect to have the surgery before the season or early into the season or whatever. He'd end up on the IR or the PUP list or whatever, however it was designated, and that would be it. And he would take the time to get healthy, and that's all she wrote. That's what I think is happening. But just me speculating.
The Saints tried to make it work. Financially, it has no, financially there's no residual effect here. It's either he's on the team or he's not on the team. It doesn't really matter. You're talking about the difference of $1 million. Doesn't matter. I mean,
his base salary is $1 million.
Difference of $1 million is big for you and I, but difference of $1 million for the New Orleans Saints, not so much.
Yeah.
And then he gets the surgery and then is, done and ends up somewhere else for 2026. And therefore, it looks like everybody put forth this big, great effort to get him out on the field. It came up short. And then, hey, but at least we all tried. And then bang, right? Then everyone kind of walks away looking pretty good out of it. I get it. I think it's a good approach, honestly. I think it's a fine approach. Like, you're not going to trade him anywhere if there is truly this concern of a shoulder injury. No one's going to be looking to grab him unless they're really, really desperate. And look, teams like the Indianapolis Colts, who don't have an answer at quarterback, maybe that's a situation that they would be interested in. But because there's very few teams they'd have to bid against on the open market, their kind of impetus or catalyst to pull off a trade after June 1st makes zero sense. Or isn't there, I guess I should say. But it doesn't mean that they won't do it. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts have made bad decisions before, Jeff Saturday, for instance. And so it could be a way that the Saints go is to just kind of like slow burn this out so that...
I don't think you can slow burn it for 6-7 weeks like that. I think the slow burn is happening right now. The slow burn is currently happening. And I'm sure there's conversations behind the scenes with teams and whoever else, but the slow burn can't happen in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. Boom, you have surgery. Then what? Right? Like, if you're going to have the surgery in week 6, you might as well do it before the season. Don't even go through the song and the dance. So, I see what Ross is saying, but I think his timeline is off.
That everybody walks away okay. Everybody walks away happy. Everybody walks away with what they want. Derek Carr gets his fresh start somewhere else at some point in the near future. The New Orleans Saints get to turn the page. And this is the time to turn the page. You've got a new head coach. Not only do you have a new head coach, with the exception of less than a handful of coaches, you have an entirely new coaching staff.
Yeah, no doubt. It is the time to turn the page. Youngest staff in NFL history. New coaches literally everywhere. 9 rookies coming in. And then the undrafted free agents. Like, it's time to do it. It is absolutely time to do it.
You're going to have a new offensive system, a new defensive system. You're going to have new things on the special team side under Phil Galliano, as well as, of course, changing rules in the NFL when it comes to special teams kickoffs in particular. You're going to have potentially a new quarterback. You're going to have new regime. You're going to have new approach. You're going to have new culture. You're going to have new identity. It's time. Like, it just makes perfect sense for this to be a split. But I don't blame anybody for trying to make sure that that split is as amicable as possible.
I do if it gets in the way of business. Like, I think right now, sure, save face, do what you want, doesn't matter. But when it comes time to, like, all right, we're on the practice field. We are leading up to week 1. Ooh, it's week 2. Ooh, it's week 3. Like, that's not really the time to do this. There's no point in risking everything to save face on both sides. So it's like it's a long con, but a short period of time for that to happen. So and I'm sure other teams know this. Like, other teams have to know what's going on. But at this point, if you're the Saints and the Steelers are like, look, we'll give you a 6th rounder, you got to kind of be like, okay, like, fine, it's something, whatever. Like, that's, I'm not sure exactly what the Saints are holding out for. I guess maybe some clarity, but if I was the Steelers or a quarterback needy team, I would be calling Mickey and saying, hey, man, we'll give you a 7th round pick. We'll give you a 6th round pick. And then you get Derek Carr and $1 million. I mean, why wouldn't you?
If that split were to happen, we have to acknowledge that there is still always the opportunity, too, that Derek Carr absolutely takes snaps as a New Orleans Saint in 2025.
Yeah.
And I think fans are going to hate it. I think the Saints are going to have a very hard time selling it and all those other things. But if the Saints feel that that's the best quarterback, let me rephrase that. If Kellen Moore thinks that that's the quarterback that's going to win him games, kind of just have to give Kellen Moore what it is that he wants. But based on the selection of Tyler Shuck, who, make no mistake about it, was Kellen Moore's guy, from what I understand, I don't know if he sees Derek Carr as the way to win the most games or the way to have the most successful 2025, which might.
I think they're planning on Derek Carr not being available, but if he is available, then it'll certainly be a quarterback competition. And man, how nuts would that be if Shuck beats out Carr? But which is possible, Kellen Moore or Tyler Shuck is Kellen Moore's guy, and who knows? Derek does have a bad shoulder, LOL. So can't rule that out, I suppose. But would he even do that? Would Derek even say, like, all right, yeah, I'll enter a quarterback competition? Sure. I'll enter a QB competition and risk potentially losing out and being the backup to Tyler Shuck? I don't know.
Not necessarily be about winning games, but in terms of building that new culture, building that new identity, building all of those other things. So it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm so intrigued to see how this all pans out. It is one of the wildest, most, circuitous stories that I've covered ever, it feels like.
Yeah.
And I'm so interested to see how this all plays out. So we'll see what happens with Derek Carr, but it does sound like he is trying to avoid surgery. Maybe that ends up being unsuccessful. Maybe he does avoid the surgery and plays in New Orleans. Maybe he does avoid the surgery and plays somewhere else. There is still a big time amount of possibilities here. So we'll continue to track it and keep you updated as we go through.
It really is nuts. I mean, I've had people who are like, I'm tired of talking about Derek Carr. Well, like, this is the story. And if the Saints, I'm not doing Ross any favors here.
Coming up next.
If the Saints weren't, if the Saints were the Giants or the Jets or the, a major market team, like, this would be one of the biggest stories in sports. This is absolutely insane. I feel like I'm watching Dateline. Like, this is a crazy, crazy story. And it is as polarizing gets. You got staunch supporters on both sides. You got tons of money tied into it. You have brand new players and cast of characters. You couldn't write this. And it's the Saints, so it's kind of getting buried. It's Derek Carr and Tyler Shuck, so it's kind of getting buried, but it's just, we are not that far away from the NFL season. And there's so much mystery with what's going to happen with this. I mean, like, if you told me Derek Carr has surgery and he's out for the year, I'd believe you. If you told me he gets traded, I'd believe you. If you told me he gets released, I'd believe you. If you told me he starts week 1, I'd believe you. If you told me Spencer Rattler starts week 1, I'd believe you. If you told me Tyler Shuck starts week 1, I'd believe you. That's like 15 different options that this thing could do. 15 like different ways this could happen. None crazier than the other. The only thing for sure is that I think fans would riot. Not literally riot, but I think fans would be pissed if Derek Carr was announced as a starting quarterback. I think that would be really damaging for the Saints. And it'd be so unfair to Kellen Moore. Because the fans are waiting to get excited for this like era and everything with Kellen, and they're there. But I have a strong feeling that if Derek Carr was announced as he's rocking and rolling and he's the starting quarterback for the Saints, I think that would turn a lot of fans off. And it would really put a damper on this new era, this new resurgence of the Saints. So we're going to monitor it. I can't wait to see how this plays out, just like Ross said. And Tyler Shuck and the rookies are at minicamp right now, so the ball is rolling. The pill is being spun. So, yeah, this needs to come to a head sooner or later. But let me know in the comments below. As a fan, as a Saints fan, how would you react? And I mean truly, really think about it. If they announced that Derek Carr was the starting quarterback and he's at practice and he's doing interviews and we're hearing from him and he's leading out the offense and out of the tunnel and it's week 1 and number 4 is under center, what would you think as a Saints fan? Would you be like, I'm rooting for the Saints, but it does feel kind of Like how would it make you feel? Would you skip the year? Where are you at? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.